Welcome, lads. Welcome to Drones Down Under podcast. I've got Ty and Danny today. How you going, boys?
Not too bad. How you doing?
So we're on to asset inspection episode 4. We've got a very special guest today with us in Josh Sinclair, who's the head of product from Trendspek. So welcome, Josh.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
So he's the man behind the brand, and we thought it's best to have him on, help us understand a little bit more about the platform and how we can actually use it. So Josh, just a bit of context, what we've covered off in the past is obviously the type of equipment that, whether it's a P4 or P4TK or an M300, different types of equipment that we would use to capture. And I guess what we'd like to hear from you is how would we actually go about uploading that data and then obviously visualize that. So if we can get a detailed understanding from how someone would go about using the platform, that'll be awesome.
No worries. I'll share my screen and we can walk through the process a little bit.
Go for it.
Alrighty. So once you have a Trendspek account, you've already been to site, you've captured your data, you've adhered to the best practices that are outlined in our capture guide, making sure there's sufficient overlap and the GPS data is of good quality and the images are well exposed. Once all that's done, you simply log into Trendspek and click on the My Uploads page on the left-hand menu. So that will take you to the My Uploads page where you can click on New Upload to upload your data. To do that, all you need to do is give the asset a name. Alternatively, if you have captured it in the past, you can select existing asset and select that asset from a drop-down list. But in this instance, I'll create a new asset. We'll call it reservoir, and the capture date was today. We can just choose default for the asset type and select the disclaimer. Clicking next takes us to the actual upload page. So from here, it's as simple as grabbing your folder of images and dragging it into the uploader. Trendspek will quickly analyze the imagery and count how many images there are, how many gigapixels there are, and how many megabytes there are. And assuming your account has sufficient capacity, it will allow you to proceed to upload. So clicking on upload will commence the process. Once the upload's completed, it enters the Trendspek processing pipeline. So the Trendspek processing pipeline takes your imagery and in sometimes as little as a couple of hours will return a extremely high resolution precision reality twin. So a 3D model or a 3D replica of the asset that you captured. So what I might do now is jump to the dataset page where we can actually review one of these 3D models. So at this point, you've captured the asset, you've logged into Trendspek, you've uploaded the data, and a few hours later, you've received an email saying that your 3D model is ready to view in Trendspek.
Awesome.
So, yeah. No?
That's all I got.
Just a comment.
Just saying awesome. I had to put something in there.
No,
he's already excited.
It came through broken, so I thought you were telling me to do something. Anyway. All right, so you've received the email and clicking on that link will take you directly to the asset. But in this instance, for this demonstration, I'm starting on the dashboard page. So we'll start on one of our demo assets and clicking on the 3D view to get taken to that 3D model. So I'll just jump. So what we're seeing in front of us here is a water reservoir in Western Sydney. It was captured back in September of 2019. When you first get into Trendspek, what you'll notice is that navigation is really simple. Really everything in the platform is extremely easy to use. So scrolling to zoom in and out, left clicking and dragging to orbit the camera, and shift clicking and dragging to pan side to side. What you'll notice on this model is the level of detail. So this specific capture was around 1 millimeter per pixel. I believe you guys have spoken about GSD in a previous episode. Is that right?
Yep.
Yes, we have.
Yep, cool. Yeah, so the level of detail in this model, and importantly, every single surface is captured or is covered. So there's no gaps in your data. You have a complete replica or a complete digital twin of the asset as it appeared in September of 2019. Now, as you know, this 3D model was created with the imagery that you captured with your drone. So the 3D model itself acts as a sort of spatial catalog, if you like, and allows you to navigate tens of thousands, sometimes even hundreds of thousands of images. To do that, you literally just right-click on the model, and that brings up all of the relevant imagery that contains that point that you clicked on. And in similar fashion, you can actually right-click on the image, and that will update the point on the 3D model. So you have that, that context between the original imagery and the 3D model. So there's no barriers between those two separate data sets.
That's cool. That's a pretty cool feature.
Yep. And within this image viewer as well, you know, you can adjust the brightness and the contrast of the image to pull detail out of the shadows as well, because, you know, as we all know, it's not always possible to get perfect imagery when you're out on site. There's just so many variables out there. So we allow you to extract as much detail as possible out of the imagery using the brightness and contrast tools. Cool. So you've got your 3D model in Trendspek. What do you actually do with it? Typically, an engineer or someone invested in the asset will want to understand the condition of that structure. So generally, they'll create visual observations on the model using our drawing and annotation card system. So, for example, if we zoom in here, we can see some sort of spalling render on this concrete here. And I can click on the drawing tools up in the main menu bar and simply click on the model, left click on the model. That drops a pin. And if I want, I can stop drawing there and just leave it as a pin by clicking on the tick. Or alternatively, I can turn that into a line by left clicking again. And if I want to create a polygon, just simply clicking back on that first point. It essentially snaps to it to close that shape off. I can style it, so, you know, changing the pins or the colors or the line thickness, as well as clamping it to the 3D model if I want. Now, the icons are actually quite important because we've seen users of you know, different industries use these in very different ways. So by changing the icons and the colors of the annotation cards, you can essentially come up with a classification system, if you like. So one company might, you know, use blue annotations for safety related issues, whereas another company may use red annotations for the same sort of issue. So depending on your use case, you can essentially customize the display of these observations to, you know, to work within your criteria. So I finished drawing that polygon. I'm going to click finish, and that brings up an empty annotation card. So we have drawings in Trendspek, and drawings are attached to an annotation card. An annotation card is essentially a catalog of information. So I can give this one a name. Let's say spalling concrete, and click save. Once that annotation card is saved, it brings up a bunch of new tabs. So the details tab tells us about the measurement or the drawing that we just created on the model. So in this example, I created a polygon, and being a polygon, it tells us the perimeter and the area. If I drew a point, for example, it would instead show me, you know, the latitude, longitude, and height of that point. Or if I drew a line, the slope, the gradient, etc. So depending on what you draw, this details tab will look a little different. Moving on to the images tab. Similar to the right-click functionality, the images tab allows you to review all of the imagery that contains this point. The defect tab essentially allows you to classify the defect. So generally someone is looking for issues with the asset, so they can classify the type of defect as well as customize it for their use case. So you can add unlimited custom values to these dropdowns. And then we've got the severity dropdown, so classifying the severity of the defect. I'll call this one medium. And then these final two drop downs are completely customizable. So you can give them a custom name as well as custom values to, again, shape the platform for your use case. Trendspek was really built around the idea of, cloud collaboration. So the application is hosted online. You don't need any special equipment to use it. And once you're inside the extremely easy to use platform, you can chat to other key stakeholders. So for example, if Danny captured this site, I might send him a message directly within this annotation card where he can respond to me in situ. So that allows you to have a conversation in real time at the actual defect level. The history tab contains a complete log of changes to an annotation card. So you can imagine, as I just mentioned, Trendspek was built with collaboration in mind. So we have some assets with 300, 400, 500 annotations and 50 plus, sometimes even 100 plus users. So the history tab allows you to keep tabs on, what's changing and who's changing it. The files tab, similar to say Dropbox, it just allows you to catalog additional files on the asset itself. So you might upload a video that you took with your mobile phone on site, a work order from a contractor, a photo of the works after they have been completed. Again, whatever your use case requires you to use it for. Within the annotation card, we've got this little unique ID in the top right-hand corner, and clicking on that will copy the URL of the annotation card to my clipboard. So if I send that to someone with a Trendspek account, they can literally click on that link. Trendspek will open up, they'll log in, and then they'll be flown directly to this defect in the same position that you're looking at to, again, give you that remote collaboration capability across borders, really.
In one of our early episodes on asset inspection, we talked about obviously the traditional means and naturally where you guys are playing and obviously pushing the industry forward. What are the typical users that are actually going to using it for, like the example you just did then? Can you give us an idea of the broad type of users that would be using the platform?
Yeah, good question. So we could really split the users into two different interests, if you like. So one type are interested in the 3D model. They're interested in actually reviewing the condition of the asset. And those sort of people would be, engineers, architects involved in the remedial works, anyone that's actually involved with, physically managing the asset. The other type of user would be, the asset owner. They don't necessarily care about every defect at the granular level. They just want a summary of, the condition of their asset and, the key things that they need to spend money on in the next 3 months, for example. So to facilitate that second user, the asset owner, for example, we built what we call the reporting page. So I can click up here to jump to the reporting page. And what that brings up is essentially a spreadsheet of all of the annotation card data. And we can customize this spreadsheet. So customize the visible columns, sort it by severity, filter it based on certain criteria to, only extract the information that we need as an asset owner. And then the current view can be exported to Excel, which allows you to, take it offline and rectify things.
Very cool.
And yep. Sorry, and to jump back to the 3D view of the asset, we simply click on that button in the top right-hand corner. Or alternatively, when we're looking at these line items, we can actually click on them and it will take me directly to it within the 3D view. So for example, this defect, honeycombing, honeycomb concrete formed during construction due to aggregate settlement. It's been marked as medium severity, and I can click on that to be taken directly to it within Trendspek. So again, just breaking down that barrier between the photos, the model, the spreadsheet data, just bringing it all together into a really simple to use platform, or distilling it down into a really simple to easy to use platform.
Adding the reporting feature is just is a huge thing. Like, I think that's incredible that it can be obviously done on all, do it all in this remote circumstance, but then output it as well, which is incredible.
Yep. And if PDF reports are more of use to your workflow, then that's another way to get your data out of Trendspek. So up in the main menu, simply clicking on generate inspection report, and we can either preview it within the web browser. Just let that load.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
So yeah, previewing it in the web browser, this contains all of the annotations. And again, within the PDF report, there's a view online link, which will take you directly to the Trendspek platform, where you can review that annotation on the 3D model itself. And instead of viewing it online, we can, of course, send the report to my email address to archive or whatever we need to do.
That's the email that they can complain on.
That can what? Sorry?
They can complain on features.
Complain?
When they want new features on Trendspek.
Oh, no, you can blur that. No, if you do have product feedback, you're always welcome to strike up a conversation in the bottom right-hand corner. Drop your ideas, or even suggest a feature within our feature request management platform.
Cool.
Where did you guys want to go next?
Hawaii.
I think that cell tower would be a good one to show, just because it has a couple of extra features on there.
Yeah, sure thing. All right, I'll jump straight to one of our demo telco assets. So another typical use case is telco infrastructure. So using drones to capture the towers and also the surrounding infrastructure. Now, we built Trendspek in really close collaboration with our user base. So we've spent a lot of time speaking with people that are actually using the platform and are actually getting value out of the platform, to ensure that it delivers on what they need. And a great example of that is the telco use case. So we had a bunch of telco users. They all had similar requirements. They needed to be able to measure the direction of antennas, essentially. So we built a specific tool set that allows a user to draw on the face of an antenna, and then within the annotation card, you get a couple of additional fields. So we've got firstly antenna type and model dropdowns, so specific custom dropdowns for antennas, and then also a tilt measurement. So with the horizon being 0, how far down or how far up is the antenna tilted, and then the azimuth. So that essentially the heading of the antenna. This allows a user to, compare it to the as-built drawings or the ACMA registry, to see if there are discrepancies between the expected values and the measured values in Trendspek. Taking that a step further, we also built a plume tool. So we can toggle on an inner plume and outer plume, and specify the dimensions of those plumes based off the antenna data sheets, and that allows you to see, how that antenna's plume interacts with the surrounding environment. So this
very cool feature that.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, so this site in particular, we haven't really captured the surrounding environment, but if you imagine, maybe you have a school over here with a 2-story building. You want to understand how that antenna's radiation, if you like, potentially conflicts with surrounding infrastructure.
They'd be getting a solid dose of 5G.
Yes. But again, just to sort of give you an idea, I know this is a podcast, but to give you an idea of the quality of the 3D model, every single wire, on this data set is reconstructed in true to life detail. There's, I think, around 100 annotations on this data set as well. So a ton of observations, all in that single easy to use platform.
So for the listeners out there, we really suggest if you get a chance to watch the copy of this episode on YouTube so you can see the detail, not just hear about it. It's quite incredible.
In terms of detail, I think this is a pretty great example here. So what's on the screen in front of me is essentially these towers often have foot pegs to assist with climbing. And then they also have a fall restraint in the form of a 5mm steel cable, maybe even smaller than that, running up alongside it that the climber can hook onto. And that steel cable has actually been reconstructed in Trendspek.
That is impressive.
Yeah. Now, within that annotation list, we can filter our annotations based on various criteria. We can also use this list to jump directly to points on the model. So for example, we've got this annotation Telstra 04678 antenna. I can click on that, and again, Trendspek will just fly me directly to that observation. Cool. I might jump to one last data set. So there's a water reservoir, or it's no longer used actually. It's in sort of the eastern suburbs of Sydney. It's been captured, I think 6 times now, Danny.
Yep.
Over the last probably close to 5 years, maybe even longer. 2016.
Never seen it.
Some of the people that may have watched our last episode may recognize this one.
I also think this data set is a good example of how far the technology has come, because the drones that we're using to capture these sort of structures back in 2016 were nowhere near as capable as the drones that we're using today. So if we jump back to 2016, the model is still very much usable, and it's a great historical data set to be able to use against your newer data sets. But there is that difference in overall quality. So just a real testament to how far, the actual technology behind these captures has come.
Still pretty good then.
Yeah, it's still pretty damn good.
Yeah, true.
Off the top of your head, do you remember what drone that was used to capture that data set?
2016.
X5 Inspire 1, maybe?
Wow. There you go.
4608 pixels wide. Does that sound like the X5?
That's 12 megapixels, is it? I don't know.
Yeah, about 12 megapixels. But yeah, probably the Inspire 2. Sorry, the Inspire 1. Inspire 1. Actually, this is probably a good a time to just sort of walk through the trend tools. So obviously this asset has been captured, as I was saying, 5 times now. So I'll jump to the most recent one as a starting point. And as you may have picked up on, Trendspek, Trend, we're all about monitoring, picking up trends within or across multiple data sets. So if I open up we've got 2 different comparison modes or trend tools. We've got the side-by-side viewer and the asset timeline. So if I open up the side-by-side viewer, I'm working from home at the moment, so my internet's a little slow, but it'll get there. All right. So these 2 models have been calibrated to each other, so they are perfectly aligned. And then the synced viewers are also calibrated to each other. So you're able to view 2 models, you're able to view the same asset over 2 very different time periods to instantly see how it's changed. So, if we zoom down here, it's very clear that in, February of 2020, they had replaced all of the render, which, back in January of 2020 had previously failed. And I can, skip through time, say back to 2016 to again see how that section of the asset changed.
Also, how much they mowed the grass.
Yeah, there's
you just said what I was thinking, Danny.
Jeez.
Or it looks like we've got a missing sign down here. Where'd that come from?
Yeah.
That's off the side. I'm pretty sure in the latest one, or is that no? That is the latest one.
That's still there.
And there's a from memory, if you spend enough time looking at this data set like I have, there's a couple of tennis balls hidden on the roof that have obviously gotten lodged up there at some point in time.
I'm sure there's a beer bottle on the roof as well. I remember seeing it at one point. I don't know which data set it was in though, but it was gone in the last one.
Who knows? Probably. There's a bit of everything up there.
Oh, the eastern suburbs.
The moss is pretty good. I always like the detail on that one.
Yeah, it comes up so well.
Yeah, was there any functionality that you guys wanted me to touch on in more detail?
Yeah, I think the camera, just the capture, I guess from showing where the actual photographs are, I guess.
Yep. Okay. So within the annotation list, down in the bottom corner, we can toggle on the cameras. And what that does is that it creates a camera frustum or a pyramid that that corresponds to the position and the orientation of your drone's camera when it took every image. So this is another way that you can navigate imagery in Trendspek. We can click on that image and we can also toggle on that complete field of view. So we can use this in collaboration with, the right-click functionality to navigate the imagery. So, for example, this white pyramid on the model now corresponds to that field of view of the camera on the right-hand side or of the image on the right-hand side. And if I change that image, that pyramid updates as well. So again, just that context between the two different environments helps break it down a little further.
It's definitely, sorry, Josh, a really good feature, I think, that one, because especially when you want to perhaps fix something that you've done or learn
from a capture perspective, it makes a huge difference to be able to see where everything is taken from and how it's done.
Yeah, and another neat bit of functionality is, we've got the point on the model that shows us where we right-clicked, and then we've got the crosshair on the image that corresponds to that location. But when we've got the camera view toggled on, if we are navigating the imagery, the pyramid on the left-hand side will remain white as long as the point is within it. But, if you select an image that doesn't actually contain that point, I'm not having much luck. Every image seems to, there you go. It'll turn red, essentially telling you that point is not contained within the image that you selected.
Cool.
Yeah. Beyond that, there's a bunch of functionality which we don't really have time to go through everything, but another tool that sees a lot of use is our 2D view mode. So toggling on the 2D view essentially locks Trendspek into a top-down view, but it also flattens the model. So you don't have that perspective interfering with your observations. Not so useful for a vertical structure, but when you've got a 20,000 square meter warehouse, it can make scanning up and down that warehouse roof a lot more manageable.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
That's something new. I didn't even know about that feature. So now it's something else I know.
All right. Well, then I'll tell you another new feature that we recently introduced. If you're on a mobile hotspot or your NBN at home is just horrible, we've added a new performance setting. So you can just drag that down to best performance. It'll use drastically less bandwidth, obviously at the cost of a slightly lower resolution model. But you can use this, on the fly. So drag it down to best performance whilst you're doing your high level navigation. As you sort of hone in on a section of the asset, drag that up to best quality, and that model will continue rendering. So just, optimizing it so that you can use it on pretty well any device.
It's a handy tool, that one.
And that's already released, that feature? Okay.
Yep. Definitely going to be using that when I'm working on the road.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Is there any new features, Josh, that you can talk about that's coming up in the next quarter to 6 months?
Give me 30 seconds.
That's fine.
I've been juggling so many different feature changes at the moment that I don't have an answer off the top of my head.
That's fine. We've got plenty of questions. So I guess for our listeners and viewers, what we've done now is obviously shown you, gone from a capture perspective, uploaded the data. Josh has obviously walked through majority of the features that you'd use probably day to day once you put that asset in, and probably your customers. And we walked through 3 different assets, or data sets, I should say. So it should give you a fair understanding of the type of customers you can go and talk to. And then you've got a platform like Trendspek, who's based out of Sydney. So Australian company, Australian support, which I think is a huge plus, especially sort of when working in this area. You want the support to be in the same time zone, especially when you got challenges and problems you're trying to solve. So, anything else, lads?
I think that's been covered off pretty well, to be honest.
And even I learned a fair bit extra today.
He was probably told you before and you didn't listen.
That's true.
To be fair, that's likely.
To the bus.
Your lat long down the bottom left.
Yep.
Probably worth talking through that one, Josh.
Yeah, so in the bottom left-hand corner, that's just your cursor's current position. So as I move my cursor, I don't know if the screen recording's picking up my cursor.
Yep.
Yeah.
But as my cursor moves, that updates just to show you the current latitude, longitude, and elevation. And then the heading value, corresponds with the camera's orientation. So if I move that to 90 degrees, I'm looking east.
Yeah, okay. I did wonder what that was. Now I know. Now I've learned another thing.
Did it give you enough time to find new features?
Oh yeah, I can answer it. I didn't find the document that I was looking for, but I can spin an answer on the fly.
Go for it. Spin away.
Cool. So in terms of new features and new functionality, one of our core focuses over the next 3 months is more advanced reporting workflows. So giving you greater customizability over the reports that come out of Trendspek, both in the spreadsheet form and in the PDF report form. And then also integrations. So we're obviously collating a lot of data within this platform. And we want to make it as accessible to existing platforms as possible. So there's a few ways we're doing that. We've built a read-only API that allows a user to essentially extract data from Trendspek on the fly. And then we're also building a couple of integrations in-house. So one of those is an integration with Skydio. So that integration essentially allows you to connect your Trendspek account to Skydio Cloud. And once that's connected, you can essentially one-click processing. So you take your Skydio drone out to site, you use 3D scan to capture an asset. Once you're back at home and your Wi-Fi, it's automatically uploaded to Skydio Cloud. And once it's available on Skydio Cloud, a single click in Trendspek is all you need to kick that processing off. And a couple of hours later, you'll have that 3D model within the Trendspek platform. And then on the theme of integrations, we're also sort of in early stages of building a Power BI integration. So a lot of our users want greater visualizations and analytics based off of their Trendspek data. So our Power BI connector will allow you to, again, go to the integrations page, generate a key, which you can then plug into Power BI to visualize your asset data within the one platform.
That's cool.
Cool.
And
Big stuff.
is that Power BI going to be like a iframe inside Trendspek, or this external?
No, so you'd either use Power BI, the downloadable application on your PC, or Power BI in the cloud, and you would log into Power BI and you would connect Trendspek to it. So you'd be taking the data from Trendspek and visualizing it within Power BI.
Okay.
But other than that, we have a pretty huge dataset page rework going on in the background, which I'm really excited for because it essentially paves the way for a ton of new functionality. So a new annotation card system, more custom fields, just more customizability in general. So really excited for that, but that's probably beyond the 3-month time frame.
Awesome.
What going on?
Always.
That's really good overview of the platform. And is there an email address, Josh, if people want to have any questions on sort of a bit more technical questions? Is there a particular email address that can reach you on?
Team@trendspek.com is probably the best starting point, and we can take it from there.
Sounds good. We'll put that up on the video as well once it's edited. And I guess for our listeners and viewers, we've got an offer from Trendspek. So there's a starter offer that Trendspek have on the website. Once you upgrade to a paid plan, you'll get an additional 50 gigapixels data pack added on, which is valued at $747. So strongly encourage you guys to go to trendspek.com, sign up to the free plan, have a go with it. And then obviously just mention you're from Drones Down Under and in the chat that Josh shared earlier. And you'll get that additional added onto your plan. So that's a really good offer, and it's exclusive to us. So I think it's a good thing to support the local partners and work with local guys. And like you said, reach out to team@trendspek.com. So if you've got any questions, and I'm sure they'll help you out. Anything else today?
Nothing for me.
I think that's a lot for our brains to handle right now. That was a lot of information. It's great.
I need more coffee.
Coffee, it's 8 p.m. You won't be able to sleep, mate.
You don't know. You clearly don't know these two well enough,
Mate,
then.
He wears a Red Bull cap.
Isn't water. It's probably not Red Bull either.
Josh, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate you coming on after a long day at work and then obviously taking us through a fairly detailed overview as well, which is awesome. So until next time, I'm sure we'll have you on again, talking through the new features and probably in about the next few months. So we look forward to it. Thank you again for your time.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me, guys.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Josh.
See ya. Bye.